My adopted daughter ties the moment I went bankrupt. But I had one final surprise. New Year's Eve in Napa Valley was unusually quiet. The sky outside Evelyn Hartley's glass-walled villa glowed in soft oranges and purples. But inside, the silence felt heavier than celebration. A single flute of untouched champagne sat sweating on the marble counter. Evelyn leaned against the kitchen island, rubbing her temples. The past 6 weeks had drained her. Investigators crawling through her company's books, tabloids speculating bankruptcy, and lawyers whispering embezzlement with sidelong glances. But tonight, for just one evening, she wanted peace. Sierra's out with friends, she'd thought. Let the house be quiet. She had just turned off the lights and started walking toward her favorite armchair when the front door swung open. "Mom!" Sierra's voice rang out like bells. She wore a sparkling cocktail dress, too short for the chill outside, but her smile was radiant. Evelyn felt a flicker of warmth in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, this night wouldn't be so hollow. "You're home early," Evelyn said gently. "I wanted to spend the new year with you." Sierra bounced over, arms looping around Evelyn's neck. "Besides, I've got something to show you." She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen excitedly. "It's perfect, right?" Displayed was a real estate listing. Sleek, sprawling, lakefront. A $3 million villa just outside South Lake Tahoe. Private dock, wine cellar, infinity pool. Evelyn blinked. "Sierra, what is this?" "My New Year's gift," Sierra chirped. "For me. From you." Evelyn paused. "Sweetheart, that's a little excessive." Sierra's expression didn't change. "You bought me the Audi last Christmas. This year's just bigger." "I'm not in a position right now," Evelyn began carefully. "The company's under review. My assets are frozen until the court clears everything. But once it's all resolved, I'll make it up to you. I promise." Sierra's smile vanished in an instant. Her eyes sharpened. "Frozen assets?" she repeated, voice cold. "You mean you're broke?" "No, just admit it," Sierra snapped. "You put on this show with your villas and cars and charity galas, but you're just another phony." Evelyn stiffened. "All this time I knew it was too good to be true." Sierra stepped back, voice rising. "God, I was so stupid to think you'd last. You always loved playing the generous mother. Well, what happens now that the money's gone?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick white envelope. With a flick of her wrist, she tossed it onto the coffee table. "I've had this ready for months," she hissed, "just in case." Evelyn didn't move. Her eyes rested on the bold black text at the top of the document, Termination of Adoption Agreement. "I'm not going to stick around for scraps," Sierra sneered. "I'm not built for poverty, Evelyn." The clock behind them struck midnight. Fireworks cracked faintly in the valley below. Without a word, Evelyn stepped forward, picked up the pen Sierra had left beside the papers, and signed her name. The ink bled smoothly onto the page, and just like that, the daughter she'd fought, so hard to love, was gone. 3 years ago, Evelyn Hartley walked into the dusty halls of the Crestline Youth Shelter on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Her heels clicked softly on the linoleum floor as she followed the volunteer coordinator down a corridor of muted beige walls and scuffed doors. She hadn't planned to get involved, at least not like this. At first, it was just a donation drive, a fundraiser, a silent auction, but something had drawn her deeper. "She's in here," the coordinator whispered, "in the ball." Corner of a nearly empty classroom sat a girl, maybe 17, maybe younger, curled into herself by the window. Her hair was knotted in places, her sweatshirt 2 sizes too big, sleeves swallowed her hands. A sticky notepad rested in her lap, nearly out of pages. She was writing, though no one had asked her to. "Her name's Sierra," the woman added. "Third placement this year. No one sticks." Evelyn stepped in carefully. She didn't introduce herself. She just stood beside the window, watching the rain. After a moment, she asked softly, "What are you writing?" Sierra didn't look up. "Places I don't hate," she mumbled. "So far, the list has one." "Which one?" Evelyn asked. Sierra finally met her eyes. The bookstore 2 blocks down. They don't kick me out. That was the beginning. Evelyn saw something raw and stubborn in Sierra. Not the kind of broken that needed pity, but the kind that needed space, structure, and someone who wouldn't flinch at the sharp edges. Over the next 6 months, Evelyn attended every training, passed every background check, and filled out every evaluation form the state could throw at her. When Sierra finally moved into the villa on Hawks Ridge Lane, she didn't unpack for 2 weeks. But slowly, things shifted. Evelyn enrolled her in school, got her a desk, a walk-in closet, a dog. Sierra still kept a distance, until one night, after dinner, she said it. "Hey, thanks, Mom." Evelyn didn't react. She just gathered the dishes, heart full, eyes stinging. 1 year later, she filed the legal paperwork. Sierra Hartley, officially her daughter. The soft click of Evelyn's heels echoed against the marble as she stepped through the front door, the late afternoon light casting long shadows across the foyer. The court hearing had dragged on for hours. Another grueling update on the financial freeze. Her shoulders ached. All she wanted was solitude, a bath, silence. But before she could even hang up her coat, Sierra bounded down the stairs, all sunshine and sparkles like nothing had ever happened. "Mom," she chirped, voice too bright. "You're finally back. I've been dying to show you something." Evelyn blinked, caught off guard. The last time they stood in this room, Sierra had tossed their relationship into a shredder. And yet here she was, smiling like a child bringing home a straight-A report card. Sierra held up her phone, flipping it around. "Look, isn't this place stunning?" On the screen, another villa, larger, colder, a palatial glass-walled mansion on the snowy banks of Lake Tahoe. Price tag, $3.2 million, private sauna, 4-car garage, helipad. "It's perfect," Sierra said breathlessly. "I want this one for my winter place." Evelyn stayed quiet. "You already live here." "I know, but this would be, like, my escape home. I already showed it to a few people." Evelyn's tone cooled. "Who did you show it to?" Sierra shrugged, her smile flickering. "Just Travis and a couple of his friends." The name landed like a stone in Evelyn's gut. "You told Travis about this villa?" she asked, voice low. Sierra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Relax. I already told him it's his. It's not a big deal." Evelyn's breath caught. "You gave it to him?" "Well, yeah. He needs a place. You always said he wasn't welcome. Here, remember?" Evelyn stared at her. Into her, really, and saw it. The games, the entitlement, the glint of cruelty behind the charm. This wasn't the girl she raised. It was the one she tried to save. And failed. Evelyn stood in the center of the living room, the silence between her and Sierra so sharp it could have split the air. Outside, the Napa sun filtered through the high windows, casting golden light across the ivory furniture Sierra never cleaned, never appreciated. She folded her arms. "Tell me exactly what you gave him." Sierra rolled her eyes. "Why are you acting like this?" "The house," Evelyn pressed. "Did you sign anything?" Sierra shrugged, flopping onto the leather couch like it was a throne. "I had one. Of your assistants helped draft the paperwork. It's not like you were using it. And the Bentley? He's been driving it for weeks. You didn't even notice." Evelyn's voice hardened. "That car is registered under the company." Sierra laughed. "So what? You act like the world's going to collapse because I helped my father." "You helped a man with a felony record," Evelyn snapped. "A man who broke into a private estate 6 years ago and stole jewelry and wine worth over 30 grand. If I hadn't cleaned up the mess, he would have gone to prison." Sierra's face turned crimson. "He made a mistake. People change." "No, Sierra, they don't. They just get better at lying." The words hit like a slap. Sierra jumped to her feet. "You think you're so much better because you've got a few million in the bank? You sit in this palace acting like a queen, throwing crumbs at everyone, pretending you're generous, but you're just a hoarder in designer clothes." Evelyn's face didn't move, not a twitch. She walked slowly to the desk drawer, pulled out a crisp sheet of legal paper, and laid it gently on the coffee table. "What's this?" Sierra asked, voice still simmering. "Court notice," Evelyn replied coolly. "My assets are frozen, as of 2 weeks ago." Sierra paled. "What? What does that mean?" "It means," Evelyn said, picking up her glass of water, "you've been giving away things that technically don't belong to me anymore. They belong to the state. You've just handed your father a house and a vehicle that are part of a federal investigation." The glass clinked softly as Evelyn set it down. Sierra's voice dropped to a whisper. You're not kidding?" Evelyn didn't respond, and for the first time in 3 years, Sierra looked terrified. Not because she'd hurt Evelyn, but because there was nothing left for her to take. The ticking of the kitchen clock was the only sound in the room. Evelyn stood by the window, staring out at the vineyard, where bare winter vines stretched toward a cold, indifferent sky. Behind her, Sierra rummaged through drawers like she owned the place. Evelyn turned slowly. "Sierra," she said quietly, "you still have the savings I gave you, your monthly stipend, the trust fund, right?" Sierra didn't even look up. "Of course I do. Why?" "I was thinking," Evelyn said gently, "if you could loan me a portion, just until the court releases my assets, I could get things moving again, pay the legal team, stabilize operations. Once this is resolved, you'd get it back. Every penny." Sierra finally turned. Her lips curled. "You want me to loan you money?" Evelyn didn't flinch. "I thought you might want to help. You've said before this life meant a lot to you." Sierra burst into laughter, high-pitched, mocking, echoing through the open kitchen. "Oh, wow, you're serious." She crossed her arms, amused. "This is pathetic. You spent years lording your success over everyone, and now look at you, begging your own daughter for a handout like some washed-up charity case." "I'm not begging," Evelyn said calmly. "I'm asking." "Same thing," Sierra snapped. "You know what? You should be scared. This is what happens when people like you fall off the throne. No one's coming to save you." Evelyn's heart ached, not from the words, but from the certainty in Sierra's tone, the cruelty that didn't even try to hide anymore. "I see," Evelyn said softly. Sierra grabbed her bag and stormed to the foyer. "And don't think I'm going to stick around watching this slow-motion train wreck. I've got my own life, my own plans." She yanked open a drawer, pulled out the same envelope she'd thrown down days ago, and shoved it into Evelyn's hands. "Sign it. Let's make it official." Evelyn stared at the papers. Her fingers felt cold. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," she signed. Sierra didn't wait. She moved through the house like a thief in broad daylight, pulling jewelry boxes from Evelyn's vanity, grabbing a designer handbag, even slipping a gold-framed photo from the hallway table into her tote. At the door, she turned back one last time. "Don't worry," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'll light a candle for you, from one of your own damn chandeliers." And then she was gone, still thinking Evelyn had nothing left, still believing she'd won. 3 days later, Sierra stood on the courthouse steps in a tailored beige trench coat, designer sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Next to her, Travis leaned against a concrete pillar, chewing gum like he owned the place. He wore a cheap suit and a smug look, scanning every passing car with growing impatience. "She said noon," Sierra muttered, checking her phone for the 5th time. "Maybe she chickened out," Travis said with a smirk. "Wouldn't be the first rich woman to fold under pressure." Sierra rolled her eyes. "She's not rich anymore. That's the whole point." And then, a low purr of an engine. They both turned. A brand new red Ferrari pulled up to the curb, gleaming under the sun like it had been dipped in fire. It slid to a stop, and the door opened with elegant precision. Evelyn stepped out, dressed head to toe in black, sleek, composed, untouchable. Her assistant emerged beside her, holding a leather folder. Travis's smirk vanished. Sierra's mouth parted, stunned silent. "Miss Hartley," the assistant said warmly, handing Evelyn a slim tablet. All documents confirming asset release have been processed as of 8 a.m. Holdings are intact. Full operational control has been restored. Evelyn nodded. Thank you, Nathan. She turned to Sierra, eyes sharp as glass. You look surprised. Sierra blinked. I thought the assets were frozen. They were, temporarily. Evelyn's tone was icy calm. I never said I was broke. I said I needed time. Travis took a step forward. You played us. No, Evelyn said, stepping closer. I watched, and I waited. Sierra's face flushed with color. You did this just to humiliate me? No. I did this to see who you were when I had nothing to give. She held Sierra's gaze. No anger, just finality. And now I know. Evelyn took one deliberate step closer. From this moment forward, she said, voice low and unwavering, you are no longer part of my life. The words didn't shout. They didn't need to. They struck harder than any scream ever could. Evelyn turned, stepped back into her Ferrari, and left the courthouse without another glance. Behind her, Sierra stood frozen, gutted, humiliated, and entirely alone. The red Ferrari had barely turned the corner when Sierra dropped to her knees right there on the courthouse steps. Mom, wait! She cried out, her voice cracking, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Please, I didn't mean it. I just panicked, okay? I thought you were done. I thought... Evelyn didn't look back. People had begun to gather. Court clerks, reporters, pedestrians, all pausing to watch the spectacle unravel. Sierra's sobs echoed off the stone walls. You said you'd never give up on me. Don't do this. You were my mother. Travis stepped back, his face hardening. You told me she was broke, he growled. You swore she was finished. That's why I came out here and made a fool. Of myself. I thought she was... Sierra stammered, but Travis cut her off with a string of bitter curses. Evelyn kept walking, her pace calm, her expression unreadable. 2 private security guards stepped into place beside her, parting the crowd like waves. Behind her, Sierra screamed again, clawing at the ground like it could hold her. Travis turned away, already lighting a cigarette, leaving her in a heap of tears. At the curb, Evelyn paused. Without turning her head, she spoke to her assistant. Blacklist them both. Effective immediately. No access to buildings, vehicles, or accounts. He nodded. And the recovery process? Begin it now, she said coldly. Everything they took, I want it back. And with that, Evelyn stepped into the waiting car behind her. The world was still watching, but she no longer needed to explain a single thing. 1 week later, a courier arrived at Evelyn's office with a slim navy envelope sealed in gold. No return address, just her name, handwritten in familiar, looping cursive. She opened it slowly. Inside were 3 neatly folded documents. Legal, transfers returning the villa, the car, and the remaining funds Sierra hadn't touched. Tucked between them, a letter. It wasn't dramatic. No perfume, no theatrical flair, just ink and trembling honesty. Evelyn, I know I don't get to call you Mom anymore. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not even sure I deserve to write this, but I have to. You gave me a life I never imagined. You gave me warmth, structure, safety, and I spat in your face the second it looked like the roof might cave in. I didn't just break your heart. I threw away everything good about myself in the process. I'm returning what's left. I don't want any part of your world if it means taking without giving. I hope, maybe not now, but someday, you'll believe that at least some part of it was real. That I did love you, in my own broken way. Sierra Evelyn leaned back in her chair, the letter resting in her hands. The office around her was quiet, peaceful. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. But she picked up her phone. Nathan, she said, softly. Find out which vocational programs are still accepting late admissions. Something in market analysis, quiet, discreet. Understood. She hung up, folded the letter again, and placed it in the drawer. No longer on display, but not discarded either. It didn't change the past, but it was, at last, the truth. Spring arrived quietly in Napa. settling over the vineyard like a soft exhale. Evelyn knelt by the garden path behind the villa, her gloves stained with soil, lavender cuttings cradled in her palms. The scent reminded her of Sierra, once her favorite. Funny how memories clung to things that bloomed. Each day began the same now. Coffee at sunrise, tending to the soil, then back to the office where the company had found its rhythm again. Not the frantic pulse of expansion, but something steadier, purposeful. The old storage room upstairs had become her studio. Her paintings weren't perfect, but they didn't need to be. She painted things that made her feel alive again. Hills, sky, faces she imagined in silence. It was at a charity board meeting that she met Daniel, a soft-spoken director of the Regional Health Fund. His shirts never quite matched his shoes, and he always carried a second pen in his coat. They talked about strategy, ethics, jazz. He never asked about her past, and she never offered. Once a week they had dinner. No candlelight, no performance. Just two people who had been scraped raw by life and were learning to speak without armor. "You seem steadier than most," he said one night over lemon risotto. "It's not steadiness," she replied with a faint smile. "It's learning what not to hold on to anymore." And just like that, something unnamed began to take root again. Not all losses are losses. Some are just space, waiting to be filled with something better. The sun dipped low over the vineyard, casting long golden fingers across the balcony. Evelyn poured herself a cup of oolong, steam curling gently in the soft evening breeze. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that didn't ache anymore. From the wicker chair, she watched the hills shift from amber to violet. A robin landed on the railing, chirped once, then flew off. Somewhere behind her, the kettle clicked off. Earlier that afternoon, a friend from the foundation had mentioned Sierra's name in passing, how she'd started volunteering with the Youth Mentorship Program. Reliable, punctual, engaged, no flair, no drama. Just work. Evelyn hadn't asked for updates. She didn't need to. She took a sip of tea, letting the warmth settle into her chest. No need to reach out. No need to relive what had been torn. Sierra was writing her own chapter now. That was enough. Inside, the house glowed with low amber lamps and the soft hum of instrumental jazz. Her favorite novel rested open on the side table, a pressed flower tucked between the pages. She stood, collected her cup, and moved slowly back through the doorway. The breeze followed, brushing the curtains. Evelyn paused at the threshold, letting the moment settle. The woman who once lived in fear of loss no longer needed to prove anything to anyone, not even to herself. She stepped inside. Behind her, the sun kept setting, and peace at long last had a sound.